So in video number 3 of this month's series that ties back into the masterclass topic of the month of weight loss resistance that's seen in perimenopausal females, that's being offered in the lab from the Nutritional Coaching Institute, we are going to specifically be looking at 2 different types of females that most health and nutrition coaches will be seeing. And we're going to attempt to cover which type of fasting routine is going to be best for them or best suited for each of those types of females. Now, let's say we have a female client number 1 who is an active, relatively lean, healthy person who is eating a pretty well-rounded diet, but tends to suffer from low energy levels and still wants to lose a few pounds as they normally do. And then we have female client number 2 in someone who battles with being overweight or is maybe even slightly obese in terms of BMI standards, and she is also mostly sedentary except for a few low-intensity gym sessions per week. And she is either, I would say, under-eating, or she's following a lower-calorie standard American diet. Now, in female number 2, we're going to continue with her. She also tends to get shaky if she does not eat every 2 or 3 hours, indicating that there are blood sugar issues. Now, for anyone who's usually following any type of a standard American diet, there is also a very high chance that they're also probably eating a lot of grab-and-go type of foods, with some being processed and then maybe some being healthier options that are being thrown in there as well. But one thing that is regularly seen in this type of female client is she's someone who is usually eating from the time that she wakes up all the way to the time before she goes to bed. Now, this is often because of her blood sugar issues. And these types of clients, they're also chronic snackers, as we call them, where they may be eating things that are healthy snacks like protein bars or kombucha, or even smoothies that just have too much fruit or carbs in them. Now, usually the goal for this type of client is going to be weight loss and or fixing some type of hormonal issue like estrogen dominance. And with those problems, where do you start? Well, when it comes to fasting, a good first step would be to just aim to move her from what is most likely a 16-hour eating window down to more of a 12-hour eating window, with the goal of no foods 2 hours before bedtime. Now, this could be an easy transition, or it may be a struggle. But if it is a struggle, then aim to just cut down the eating window 1 hour per week from that original 16 hours until you get her to about a 12-hour window. Now, it's important to not eat before bed, as when there is food in the stomach and when a person lays down, there can be acid reflux types of symptoms. But most importantly, until the food actually leaves the stomach, it is going to prevent a person from entering into the deeper stages of sleep. Now, once that timing of that new 12-hour feeding window is mastered, which for many, honestly, it shouldn't take that long, but I would still say give it at least 4 weeks or so. Now, the next goal after that is going to be to move the client, that client number 2, down to a 10-hour eating window. Now, for many females, this will be the sweet spot, but I would maybe still work towards trying to see if she can tolerate an 8-hour window and a 16-hour fast each day. Now, that's really where I like to have most people end up when weight loss or hormonal symptoms are their primary goal. Then, have them just go back to a 10 to 12-hour eating window on the weekends to just give them a little bit of a break, and they can enjoy it with the family possibly. However, the process of doing so is going to be all about going slowly and building it into a habit of training the body, and to not just, not be eating all the time or eating all day. As it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, if you cut down the eating window too quickly, the whole process of doing so is probably going to be uncomfortable for that person. And because of that potential negative experience, they may never want to try fasting again. Okay, and we don't want that. Okay, so next, going in kind of in reverse, we have female client number 1, of whom, remember, she's relatively lean, fit, already healthy, but she may just want to have some more energy, possibly during the day, or even lean up a little further. But this is also routinely the type of female who may have irregular menstrual cycles and or is suffering with bad perimenopausal symptoms. Okay? Now, with this type of female, you want to be thinking about how to tie in a fasting routine that coincides best with where she is in her hormonal cycle, as the use of fasting will have a much more positive impact during the first half of the menstrual cycle compared to the second half, where, if she used fasting during then, it might cause some negative symptoms to materialize if it's used during that time period. And the reason for that, or simply put, is progesterone is going to be very low during the first 14 days of the female menstrual cycle. And during that time, women are much more apt to handle heavier workouts in terms of exercise. And during that time, they're also better able to handle more aggressive types of fasting. Now, this is actually much different than the second half of the menstrual cycle, where progesterone is rising and or at, let's say, at a much higher level, and that is going to stimulate more hunger and more cravings and actually even slow down bowel movements. And then when the time actually comes closer to actual menstruation, water retention is also going to increase. Now, it's important to remember that the progesterone is the hormone that prepares the female body for pregnancy, and it does so by building up the endometrial lining in the uterus in order to receive a potential like fertilized egg or a baby. And when that takes place, it's going to stimulate a woman's appetite, obviously. Now, during the second half of the menstrual cycle, it's called the luteal phase. And that is when the total amount of calories should actually increase for a woman, especially the last week before her menstrual cycle. Now, that does not mean that a woman could still not be using a reduced eating window during that time, but just in general, that is when she should be eating more food, particularly more carbs, especially during that last week. And the main reason for that is because insulin is needed for progesterone and thyroid hormone utilization. So this is why, honestly, so many women, they just fall into this category of fasting during the second half of the cycle. They're able to stay on track, and they may even feel great with fasting during the first half of their cycle, but then when weeks 3 and 4 come, they lose their willpower and they tend to give into more cravings and eat more questionable types of foods, and they're even hard on themselves. Now, for some reason, fasting, it's become a controversial topic. And honestly, there's a right way to do it, and there can be quite a few wrong ways to do it as well. But it's really hard to argue with something that's been practiced for thousands of years. And you know what? We're all still here, okay? So now, honestly, I have only scratched the surface on the female physiology side of using fasting for all of the health benefits. And I know there will be people out there who only focus on the negatives of fasting. And don't get me wrong, okay, when it comes to possibly prolonged fasting, if it's done improperly with females, then the negatives can outweigh the positives. But I don't think that anyone can argue with that by just reducing the eating window down each day and by not stuffing your face all day, that it's not going to be a good thing to do. Now, if anyone wants to learn any more of the fun facts on fasting, I actually go into much more detail and cover many of the systematic reviews that detail all of the health and weight loss benefits when it comes to the use of fasting in women, particularly in masterclass number 3 in the lab. So if you want to see it broken down in a much more detail, as well as some other great weight loss tools and also how they can be applied to more of a real-world health coach setting, then please just make sure to join the lab, and then you can learn more all about, as I call them, the nitty-gritty details. Okay, so that is it for now. I am Travis James Zipper with the Nutritional Coaching Institute signing off. I will see everyone next time, and hopefully I'll be seeing you all in the lab.